Alex Mortensen with us in the cart bar. Thank you for stopping by.
Well, thank you for having me.
What's it been like kind of coming back, because you were a Sanford guy for a while, and getting back to UAB?
Yeah. Look, I love Birmingham, and I grew up in Georgia, just south of Atlanta. My mom's from Alabama. She's from a town called Valley, which is kind of on the Georgia border, Alabama-Georgia border. And so, and then I coached at Alabama for 9 years, too. So I've got a lot of familiarity with the area. I love Birmingham. Incredibly excited to be here. I think it's a great place to live, and I think UAB's got a lot of great things going, too. So, and it makes the recruiting so easy, too, because I think it's a great place to recruit, too.
Sure.
Yeah. How has recruiting changed from being at Alabama, which national name brand, to UAB, to try and build a recruiting base in the short time you've been here?
Yeah. I think the biggest recruiting changes have been around the rules, because really even, UAB, had a really good run of success there. They're in Conference USA. They won the league, I think, 3 times in 5 years, played for it a 4th time. But now we have a transfer portal and we have rev share, NIL, that have all come into play. And so I think adapting to those things are, as challenging as anything. But, we feel like we can gain ground there. I really do. I think we've got the support of our administration, our booster community. Now, there's work to be done for us to get competitive with the way we want, but we really believe we can. We play in a great conference. We talk about the recruiting thing, playing the American Conference. How about this? Okay, in the last few years, Tulane, beats Southern Cal. Navy beats Oklahoma. USF beats Florida. Memphis beat Arkansas. I could keep going.
Yeah,
and you beat Memphis.
That's all. Yeah. So, point being is we're in a really good league. So I think if guys want to play big time ball, I think we have a great thing to recruit to here. I really do, and it is a pathway to the playoff too.
How much influence did working for Coach Saban have?
It had a tremendous amount of influence. When I went to go work for Coach Saban, I already had high expectations as to what I would learn, and those expectations were far surpassed. And it was really a really rich experience to see how he ran the program, how he dealt with people, how he managed his time, what he knew about football, the X's and O's. Just every component of it. Well, it was really a tremendous blessing, and I'm really grateful I got to do it. And there are a lot of those things that I'll carry with me into this job.
Sure.
Was there one thing that really stood out from that time?
It's hard to pick one thing because there are so many. But someone asked me this yesterday, and I think they were a little bit surprised by the answer. But the big thing to me is time management, his personal time management, because he was one of the most productive people I've ever been around. And as a head coach, a lot of head coaches kind of choose a lane. Hey, I'm just going to be CEO leadership, or I'm going to go heavy on football and delegate the leadership things. He did it all, and not only that, he was involved in defense, he was involved in special teams, he was involved to a degree with the offense. He was involved with coaching the DBs at an actual position, right? And then he also ran a massive program. And so the only way you can do that is if you are incredibly efficient with your time. So just watching the way he managed his time and his personal discipline to stay on track. It was that part was remarkable. And I appreciated those things then, but now that I'm in this role, and man, there's a lot of people knocking on your door every day and your schedule can get messed up pretty quick. I have a much greater appreciation for the way he handled his time now that I'm in this seat.
How do you manage your time to where, you hear these stories of NFL coaches sleeping in their office during the season, but, to create a personal time for yourself where you're not?
Yeah, I think that's part of the idea of being efficient. And then I think blocking off time in the day where, not to be rude, but you say, hey, right, there's certain times of the day the door's open, certain times of the day I got to work, and that's for the benefit of the program, not to be selfish, right? And Coach Saban used to tell us this, hopefully he doesn't mind me saying this, but going into the season, he would actually tell the staff, it seems like he did it about once a year in August, he would say, hey, look, as we're getting into the season here, you're not going to get any brownie points for me for being here till 2 a.m. He's like, what I expect, I want you to get the players to play well. That's what I care about the most. If you do that, you're going to be dead in the middle of the season. You're going to lack creativity. You're going to be short-tempered. So, hey, create a schedule and a routine that you can sustain and stick to it. And I think he led by example on that. Hey, he worked long hours, but, we didn't sleep in the office there. And so hopefully that's going to be the goal here. We don't want to be sleeping in the office if we can help it.
the landscape has changed so much with revenue sharing and the NIL. Where does UAB fit into the NIL and the revenue sharing, and how much is the portal going to play in the recruiting?
Yeah, when it comes to NIL and rev share, when I got this job, we had ground to make up. Here's the good news. We've made up some ground, and it starts really with our administration out of the president's office with Dr. Watts, all the way down. But they've made a commitment, so we've closed the gap a little. There's still more work to be done. And then the other part is our booster community. They've stepped up in a big way. There are a lot of people that care about football in Birmingham and people that are associated with UAB. So we have more work to do there. But I think with, the commitment from the administration and their willingness to help us close that gap, coupled with the enthusiasm around football in Birmingham, I think we can get there. And I think we get there in a big way. I'm really confident of that. And then, our job too is we got to take what we've got and make the most of it, as a coaching staff. And I think we've got enough to go out and compete here.
Do you, is the portal going to be the wave of the future? I mean, for everybody, and you've got to re-recruit your kids every year. I mean, how much has that changed since you got into the business?
It's changed dramatically. I mean, one, in regards to the portal, we got hired right after the December signing period. And so it was hard to recruit a high school class at that time. We want to take more high school players. We would like to have guys in our, one, we think there's really good high school players in this area. Greater Birmingham out 5 hours from here. I mean, you go over, to West Georgia, into South Atlanta, South Georgia, Nashville, so on and so forth, go down to Mobile. We've got really good high school football in the area. So we want to recruit more high school players to start with and then work to retain them and develop them. Now, in terms of the portal, it's hard to say because it's changing so often in terms of will it be a permanent fixture? I assume it will. At this point, I may change my mind, but I kind of like what we did this year where there was one window, because now we at least know who our team is. And for the listeners that maybe don't know, in the past, the last couple of years, there's been a window in December and in the spring, in which case you would go through spring football and then you would have to lose a lot of players and replace them late. At least now we know a little bit about our team. And yeah, we have strengths, we have weaknesses, but we can start working to those strengths and working around those weaknesses or working to develop them and plan a little bit, as opposed to trying to figure out who's going to be on our team here in a few weeks.
How have the conversations with recruits gone differently now? How far into the conversation is what can you give up?
A lot, really and truly, it depends. The high school thing does feel a little more about relationship. Does feel a little bit more about delayed gratification. Hey, what's the value of a degree? Hey, UAB education is awesome. It's special. Okay, they want to know, hey, can you develop me for the NFL? Are you going to help me grow and get better? That's a little bit more of it there. Now, they still want to know what they're going to get too financially. Now, in the portal, a lot of times they won't get on the plane until they have a ballpark idea what they're going to get paid. They're not taking when I say get on the plane, I mean they're not going to take a visit until they have an idea. So it is highly transactional, but I think over time, even in the last couple of years, I think we've seen some guys wise up to the idea that if I only, take the money in the short term, that might not coincide with some of my other goals that, like, say I do want to play in the NFL or have an opportunity to. I'm going to need play time. I'm going to need to play in a system that fits me. I'm going to play with coaches that develop me. So I do think more of them are doing that little bit of that cost-benefit analysis, and maybe they don't always go to the highest bidder like they used to if you can sell them on the other things. Guys usually get in the portal for two reasons: money and play time, and so you're trying to speak to both of those things, and I don't think it's only money right now.
Is there a deal breaker early in a conversation with a player you might be recruiting, when a question he might ask concerning finances or something like that?
Yeah, there are times where guys will not take a trip if they, if you can't pay them X amount, and I've seen guys leave a visit literally in the middle of the night, because someone offered to pay them more, before they even went through the whole visit. Now, that being said, it's a two-way street too. Now, like, we our mindset is we want guys that are about the team, and my last game as the interim coach at UAB last year, we played Tulsa and we got on that plane short 40 players. But the guys that got on the plane, and there's a long story behind that. I'm not going to get into that right now, but the guys that got on the plane were tough. They were hardworking, they were positive, they were enthusiastic, and they played for each other, and they were about a cause greater than themselves, and went and won the first road game in 3 years. And so I think for us, we tell them in recruiting, like, look, like there's deal breakers on your end, there's deal breakers on my end, on our end too. If you're not hardworking, tough about the team, and can't get behind that, like don't come here. Like this is not the place for you.
Yeah.
Is it frustrating to have to kind of re-recruit your players each season?
It is frustrating to have to re-recruit your players. I think it's important not to take it personal, and then over time, like even the last couple of years, it's become less frustrating. It's become a little less frustrating, and you just recognize, hey, this is part of the deal. It does remind me of my first job, which is New Mexico Highlands, where it was a Division II program. I had a great time there, great coaching staff, but we're kind of out in the middle of the desert, and we took a lot of junior college players, a lot of bounce backs. A lot of our players did not show up till after the 4th of July. And we went out, we won 8 games. Our quarterback had a great year. It was the only 8-win season they've had since 1999, still to this day. And I think to myself, man, we had a lot of variables and change and a short timetable to get a team ready to play. And man, I had the time of my life. And so it's like, man, like let's think about the things we do have, the positives of having this job and having an opportunity to work with players and coach them. So is it exactly the way I'd set things up? No, but man, it's still an awesome opportunity.
Y'all ever going to get on Alabama's schedule?
We'll play whoever's on the other sideline.
That was a loaded question. Great. Well, we appreciate you stopping by.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.